Welcome to the Howie Silbiger Show on the True Talk Radio Network. Get in on the conversation. Call 1-877-669-1292.
Howie Silbiger Show right here on the True Talk Radio Network. My name is Howie Silbiger, and this is the Howie Silbiger Show right here on the True Talk Radio Network. You could feel free to call in. Number to call, 1-877-669-1292. That's the number to call to get in on the conversation, 1-877-669-1292. What a strange and crazy world we live in. It's absolutely insane. I've been watching a little bit of television recently. I normally don't watch television. I don't like being dumb, so I don't watch television, and I find that television is really dumb these days. I can't find an intelligent show to watch. It's all contrived. It's all rehashes. It's all remakes. It's not a very good entertainment landscape. I haven't seen a movie in a long time because I haven't seen anything that even looks remotely good to go and see. And so watching recent television shows, it occurs to me that the world has gone completely insane. We have completely forgotten what is true, what is not true, what is fact, what is fallacy, what is biology, what is science. We've totally thrown all that out the window. And when we look at society today and the way society is conducting itself today, I wonder how that happened. I like to believe that most people in society, most people that live in the world, are relatively intelligent. This is something I like to believe, although time and time again, people have proven me wrong. But I tend to believe that most people living in society are relatively intelligent. That most people living in society want to contribute to society, want to have some kind of legacy, want to be remembered for something, want to have love and want to be loved. Want family and want to be part of family. This is how normal society works. And slowly over the last 15 years, I've seen society degrade to a point where we are living in a world where truth and fallacy, where reality and fiction have collided and merged, and we're living on their child. I don't understand, and I've said this a long time, and this is not a new argument I'm making. I don't understand how normal, rational people could sit quietly and not cause a fuss and not scream and yell and fight when certain truths, today's truths, are told to us. It all started, in my world, with, in my world of radio, my world of this show. It all started with Yasser Arafat referring to the state of Israel as an apartheid state. Now, he did this in Johannesburg, when he was speaking in a church in Johannesburg, in front of Nelson Mandela, who was a victim of apartheid, who lived through apartheid, who fought and defeated apartheid. Nelson Mandela was sitting in the audience and applauded Arafat when he compared the state of Israel to apartheid. Now, if anybody ever studied the history of apartheid, if anybody ever studied or looked at the way apartheid was developed, the way apartheid worked, one would immediately see that the state of Israel is the exact opposite of apartheid. That there are no shanty towns. There is no discrimination against the Arabs when you live in Israel. Arabs sit on the Supreme Court. Arabs sit in the Knesset. Arabs sit the Knesset is their parliament, but Arabs sit on city governments. They hold prestigious positions in universities. They're doctors. They're lawyers. It is absolutely insane to think that Arabs are living under any form of apartheid. And if anybody looks at the reality, everybody will realize that the claim is ludicrous. But it's been repeated so many times by the media. It's been repeated so many times by various anti-Israel politicians that one has to, that the society, I don't say one has to, but society tends to believe it. You see, if the news says it, if it's repeated over and over again on newscasts, if it's repeated over and over again in newspapers, if it's repeated over and over again, people tend to believe it. Adolf Eichmann put it properly when he stated that if you repeat a lie over and over again, it becomes the truth. And that is exactly, I'm sorry, it wasn't Adolf Eichmann, it was Goebbels. It was Joseph Goebbels, Nazi propagandist Joseph Goebbels. He said if you repeat a lie over and over again, it becomes the truth. And that is the truth. He was telling the truth. And we saw that with apartheid. And we see it again happening over and over and over again. Anybody who has any basic knowledge of biology knows that a male and a female are different, biologically different. It's obvious. It's apparent. If you look at people, you see that they are physically different. If you do a genetic study on people, you could tell who was born a male, who was born a female. It's not a hidden secret. It has been the biological fact for centuries. Yet now we're questioning it. Society is questioning it. How do you question fact? How do you question biological fact? Now, I understand questioning scientific hypotheses. I understand questioning other mathematical equations that may come up that might have variant answers. But the reality is, if you're born with certain parts and born without other parts, or born with these parts and not born with those parts, you remember that tribe, you remember that tribe. And the two tribes have to get together to procreate. Two males can't procreate. Two females can't procreate. Now, call it whatever you want. I don't care what you call it. But the truth of the matter is, and biologically, there's only two genders. So you could call the genders anything you want. You could say, okay, I'm not a male anymore. Now I'm a Jamal, and that's fine. I have no problem with that. You could be a Jamal, a Kamal, a Kilal, whatever you want to be. But the fact is that people born who look this way and people born who look this way are members of the same species, but two different sides of the species, and the two sides have to get together to create new species. New members of that species. That's the way biology works. It's the way biology works in animals. It's the way biology works in plants. It works that way everywhere. And to see so many humans, so many smart, intelligent people buying into this fallacy and playing up this fallacy, it's kind of sad when you think about it. When you look at it, it's very sad. Now, I'm not taking a stand on anything, and I'm not homophobic, and I couldn't care less about trans people. I couldn't care less about any of that stuff. Really, honestly, couldn't care less. What you do in your bedroom, what you do in your life is really your problem. My issue is solely that we must speak in truth. We must speak in reality. We must live in reality. And we can't allow a fringe segment of society or a mentally disturbed element of society, I mean, it could go both ways, to disrupt normal human life, to cancel people. Now, if I said this on a regular radio station, if I went and I did the show on a regular radio station exactly the way I'm doing it now, I would have been canceled already. And that's not right either. We're entitled to our opinions. People who are alive are entitled to express an opinion. Now, I'm expressing the opinion on this show, not that I'm scared of anybody or that I care about anybody, that I want to take any rights away from anybody. I really don't. I don't care enough to take rights away from people. I think everybody should have the same human rights. I think everybody. Look, we had the same issue. Years ago when homosexuals wanted to get married. Gay marriage was a big thing maybe 10 years ago. And they were fighting for the right to be married. And countries and cities and states came up with a solution. They said, listen, marriage is a religious concept, and the religious concept of marriage is a male and a female. That's a religious concept. It was devised in the Bible, and we don't really want to change the meaning of that. What we'll call it is civil unions. You can have a civil union. You have the same rights, the same everything as a married person. It's just not going to be called a marriage. And they were turned down, and they were told no. And riots and more complaining until it was called marriage. They weren't happy. And it had nothing to do with actually being able to have equal rights, because equal rights were offered. It had to do with knocking down religion, knocking down this sense of morality, knocking down something that they felt was wrong. Now, I don't care if you believe in religion. I don't care if you don't believe in a religion. I don't care if you believe in God or you don't care or don't believe in God. It's irrelevant to me. That's between you and God, and that's between and you know when you die, you'll meet your maker, and you'll figure it out then. That's really not my issue. My issue is that when we're living on the world, and we have to live under some kind of code, we have to live under some kind of general understanding, some kind of general agreement. And the general agreement has to make sense. And that's really where I'm at here, is that it doesn't make sense. None of it makes sense. Now, you want to warp language and call people theys and these and thous and thas. I don't care. I don't care. Play with language all you want. But we have to have some kind of general agreement that biology is real. You can't tell me to follow the science when it comes to COVID vaccines. You can't tell me to follow the science when it comes to Ebola vaccines. You can't tell me to follow the science when it comes to anything, if you're not willing to follow the science when it comes to basic biology. Science doesn't change. And one science is the same real as another science. So if you tried to shame me because I questioned the efficacy of masks, and YouTube did, they pulled me off, they canceled my show. If you're trying to shame me for looking at scientific data and questioning the efficacy of masks, then how could you tell me that masks are scientifically proven to be effective against the fight against COVID? That's fine. I mean, maybe they are. I have no idea. I'm not a scientist. Everything I've read said they aren't, but perhaps they are. That's fine. But how could you tell me to look at the science at that and ignore science when it comes to biology? And ignore science when it comes to human reproduction? How could you tell me a man is pregnant? It's physically impossible. Yet the CDC, the Center for Disease Control, just came out with a statement saying that men who are lactating, what does that mean? Men cannot lactate. But this is the statement that came out from the CDC. So the more we normalize the perversion of science, the more we do that, the less currency we have to tell people to follow the science. You can't have it both ways. Life is not a two-way street. It should be, but in general it's not. And people intend to look for consistency. And when you're inconsistent and they're inconsistent, how do you survive? And how does society survive? And how do we raise a generation of children to understand that society must follow a certain set of biological rules? It doesn't seem that overly difficult for me to understand. Maybe you can explain it to me. Maybe give me a call. 1-877-669-1292 is the number to get in on the conversation if you want to weigh in on this. I'm awfully confused by it. It doesn't make sense to me how normal people in society could sit back idly and allow these lies to be perpetrated upon society, allow these lies to be continuously repeated over and over and over again. And people sit back and do nothing and say nothing and don't fight back and don't say, hey, wait a second, this is insane, this is ludicrous, what are you talking about? Up is up, down is down, right is left. What are you talking about? But people aren't doing that. People aren't doing that. And a lot of people aren't doing it because they're afraid. Let's be honest. People are afraid. They're afraid that they're going to get canceled. They're afraid that they're going to get maligned. They're afraid that they're going to lose their jobs. And people have lost their jobs over this. I lost a job over this. I was working in a high school. And 22 years ago, I wrote an article that was on my blog, my website, howiesilbiger.com. 22 years ago, I wrote an article that was posted on that website. It was questioning transgenderism. It was basically the same conversation we're having right now, where I said, I don't care if somebody wants to cross-dress. It doesn't change anything for me. I couldn't care less if somebody felt that they had to wear women's clothing. That's fine with me. It doesn't bother me. But I said, if somebody actually believes, if a man actually believes that he's a woman, that he's a man trapped in a woman's body, or a woman trapped in a man's body, excuse me. If somebody actually believes that, then there is something seriously wrong. And I'm not being facetious. I'm not being mean. I'm not trying to be mean. I'm not being homophobic. And I know somebody's going to call me that. And I'm definitely not being homophobic. But if that person has a problem like that, where they feel trapped in somebody else's body, they should really seek help. And that's what I said in the article. I said they should really seek help. We shouldn't be pandering to that delusion. They should be seeking help to try to save themselves from that delusion, to try to get themselves out of whatever is causing that delusion. If I thought I was a panther, and I was sure I was a panther, and I told everybody in the world, hey, I'm a panther, I would need help too. Now, I know it's not politically correct to say this in today's world. I understand that by saying this right now, I'm putting myself in a position where there are people going to yell at me that I'm a hater. But the honest truth is, I am not a hater. I hate nobody. I love everybody. I honestly do. I believe everybody has the right to live any way they want to live. But I don't believe that you could force me to acknowledge and to accept your delusion. If you want to live in a delusional world, that's your prerogative. But I don't have to live in that world with you. Now, you could disagree with me, and you can feel free to call in. 1-877-669-1292 is the number to call. 1-877-669-1292. If you can live in your delusions, but I don't have to live in there with you. And I never understood, and I still don't get it. I never understood why people are so hung up on what other people think of them. I never cared what anyone thought of me. That's the honest truth. I did. I've been doing this show for 30 years, a little under 30 years. And I've never really cared what anybody thought of me. I get on the show and I express my opinion. Whoever doesn't like it doesn't have to listen. Whoever doesn't like it could turn it off. Whoever doesn't like it could call in and argue with me. Whoever doesn't like it could send me an email at howie@truetalkradio.com. We could argue on email. Whoever doesn't like it, go to the Facebook groups, the Howie Silbiger Facebook groups, and that's fine. They could do that and they could argue with me. And I'm good with that. It doesn't bother me. I have no problem with that. But if you're delusional, that's fine. You could live with your delusion. It's fine. It doesn't bother me. But don't expect me to pander to your delusions. That's all I'm saying. Own it. Be yourself. Be you. I'll be me. You be you. I won't judge you based on who you are. You don't judge me based on who I am. But that's not how the world works, unfortunately. You know how many letters I've gotten, how many emails I've gotten to True Talk Radio telling me to shut down the Howie Silbiger show? Not realizing I owned the station. People sent, hey, how could you have a guy like this on your station? You know how many times I've received emails like that? Why would you do that? If you don't like the Howie Silbiger show, nobody's forcing you to listen to it. I'm not standing there with a gun to your head saying, hey, listen to the Howie Silbiger show. No, I'm not. You don't want to listen? Don't listen. That's fine. I have no problem with that. People come back time and time again, and then they send me emails saying, Howie, you're crazy, you're a moron. Fine. I mean, insult me all you want. The second you start insulting somebody, that's when you lose the argument. So if you want to insult me, go ahead. It doesn't bother me. The end of the day is I have an opinion, I'm going to express it. If you have an opinion, you could express it. If you want to share your opinion with me, you could call in 1-877-669-1292. I'll even pay for the call. How about that? So you want to express your opinion, you want to argue with me, fine, feel free to call in. But demanding that I get canceled or demanding I get fired from my job or whatever, that's a little overboard, isn't it? That's a little crazy for expressing an opinion. Like if I was expressing, okay, I'll back up a little bit because there's always a caveat to everything. There's always an exception to every rule. If I was on here yelling that we should commit harm to certain people, or that certain people shouldn't have alienable human rights, or we should enslave people, or whatever, if that was the argument I was making, fine, I understand. Let's shut the guy down. That I get. And I know that's the next argument that's going to come up, and that I get. Okay, fine. You want to shut down somebody who's yelling and screaming about enslaving people. I have no issue with that at all. But if there's somebody expressing a political opinion, somebody just expressing a pure political opinion, this is what I think. Well, you have the right to either agree or disagree with the person. You have the right to argue with the person or ignore the person. You have the same right that person has to express your opinion. And to shut that person down and not allow that person to speak, or try to stop that person from speaking, taking their soapbox away, you are essentially making the conversation one-sided. Who wants to live in a one-sided world? Who wants to live in a world where conversations are only one-sided and only one political opinion is expressed? We've seen societies like that. We've seen communism that suppressed, killed anybody who had a separate opinion. That kind of dictatorship, I'm not interested in. And I don't think you should be either. But who am I to dictate to you what you should or should not be interested in? You see, that's the wonderful thing about living in a democracy. Wonderful thing about living in the free world. You could decide what's good for you, and I could decide what's good for me. Give me a call, 1-877-669-1292. Send me an email, howie@truetalkradio.com. If you want to comment on this, it's the best way to do it. You could do it on the Facebook page, the Howie Silbiger Show page, or the Howie Silbiger Show group, where a lot of discussion happens there too. Feel free to contact me anytime. I'm Howie Silbiger. This is the Howie Silbiger Show, right here on the True Talk Radio Network. We're going to go now, but we'll be back again very soon, right here on the True Talk Radio Network. Feel free to once again like the Facebook page, the Howie Silbiger Show page. Join the Facebook group, the Howie Silbiger Show group. Download the True Talk Radio Network app from your favorite app store. And I'll see you again next time, right here on TrueTalkRadio.com.